it kind of sparked something. As I was talking about last week about, a different kind of spirit, the Lord just kind of quickened in my heart to kind of go with this idea, because as Caleb was a man with a different spirit and rose up and defended and said it's time to go take the land, I believe that's what we've got to do. But we don't get to ignore all the stuff going on around us in the world. And so I want to talk to you about having a different kind of strength. A different kind of strength. We as believers, when everything comes in this world and troubles of all kinds come, we've got a lot of trouble. A lot of people have been hurt. A lot of people have been taking on a lot of weight. And so we look at the scriptures, and we're going to be in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 in a little bit. And what we learn is that when problems and pressures that we face in this world come upon us, they have the ability to do something extraordinary for the believer, and that's strengthen us. Give us strength that we didn't know we had. And a lot of people have been hurt. A lot of people have been hurt through this pandemic. A lot of people have been hurt from other people. Other people have been hurt from the church. In fact, as we've been inviting people back to church, it's amazing how many people don't want to come to church that's been invited because they said, I've been hurt by the church. But isn't it amazing to me that people have been hurt by drugs, but they didn't stop doing drugs. They've been hurt on their job, but they didn't stop going to their job. They've been hurt by a lot of other things in the world, but the church is the one thing that they said, well, I can quit that. It's just strange. It's extraordinary. But the truth is that this is the place. And the truth is the church didn't hurt them. A person hurt them. Somebody in the church may have hurt them, but the church didn't hurt them, because I believe the church, the community of believers, wants the best. They love people, encourage people, lift people up. But there's a lot of things going on in the world. So as we got to deal with these issues, I want you to understand, what does it mean to have a different kind of strength? Let me tell you what it means. To me, it means keeping my head when everything around me is chaotic. Having a different kind of strength means hanging on to hope even during seasons of great loss. It means having and retaining confidence in the face of criticism. And it means that I stand on biblical values even in the current culture of change. That's what it means to me. You ever know people like that? Just kind of open it up. I'll tell you, I know people like that. In fact, anybody who's been a part of this church can remember some definite individuals that show that during great trials and situations. Currently, we have somebody like Mary Borman, who has been a long-term member of this church and who's been fighting cancer for years. They've had God's healed her time and time again. And now, even in the moments when she's saying, Lord, let me go home, the truth is that her faith is so outstanding. We've got a guy that was at the first service here, Danny Valines. And if you don't know Danny Valines, he's an amazing, amazing man of God. And when you talk to Danny, he's the most encouraging guy in the world. He could have walked out of the worst doctor's report ever, got the saddest news, but you would think that he just got the greatest news because he's got a smile on his face, he loves the Lord, and he doesn't care. It's just amazing. When I look at people like that, I'm like, that's the kind of faith, that's the kind of hope, that's the kind of attitude I want to have, that no matter what the news I get, no matter what the surrounding, what I see on the wherever I'm watching, listening to, or something, I want to have the kind of faith that when people look at me, they think, wow, nothing gets this guy down. And it's just not true. Things get me down. Things hit me just like it hits you. So we all know people like that, people who have endured, people who have lasted, people who have walked through very difficult situations and retained their character and confidence. And I think we all want to have that kind of strength. Here's the problem with the people who want that kind of strength. We only get stronger when we learn how to cling to our faith in seasons of trial and suffering, which means you only get stronger by going through pain. Anybody want to choose the road of pain? Not me. In fact, if there was two roads in here and you say, Pastor Brian, you go over here and it's going to be easy, smooth sailing. You can get on the boat and just sail along, no big deal, easy going. Over here, it's going to be a little rocky, desertly, problems. People are going to probably spit on you as you walk this way. But you can leave either direction. Just choose your direction. Every single time I'm going to choose this one. Every time I'm going to choose the easy path. Because nobody chooses suffering for themselves, but it's through suffering, it's through pain that we grow stronger. And so as we learn this and as we go through this, we understand there really is no pain, no gain, but it's through that stuff. There's things that are people in here that literally have gone through stuff that makes you just feel like I'd fall apart. And you watch them and you say, I don't know how you would be amazed by the testimonies in the room today. I could say that about the first service and second services. people who've been through abusive situations, people who've been through great loss and great trials, through people who've been through great persecution, and they've made it, and here they are standing on their faith, serving God every day. Listen, you guys are people of great hope, and you don't even know it. So even though we may get overwhelmed by the things that happen around us, I want to encourage you today that you have a strength within inside you, and as you go through this stuff, if you allow it, it'll make you stronger. And so the Apostle Paul knew this. And as we dive into what the Apostle Paul, this kind of strength, we're going to look at what made him strong, and it's not what you think. So in 2 Corinthians, for many of us, it'll be a very familiar passage of Scripture. But for those who are not, I just want you to take it in and soak in as we stop along the way. But in verse 8 of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, it says, "We are pressed on every side by troubles." Man, it feels like he wrote that like yesterday. It doesn't feel like he wrote this over 2,000 years ago. We are pressed on every side by troubles. Now understand, we feel that way right now because we have never been in a situation like this, where your faith is being tested, your life is being tested, your medical health is being tested. You've never been in a season like this where you've been tested. So we feel like that. Man, I'm pressed on every side. Everywhere I turn, there's a new thing coming up, a new problem, a new situation, a new trial. But when Paul wrote this, Paul dealt with a much different kind of persecution. Paul was preaching the gospel that at the time was considered to be a cult. These people are the follower of the ways. They weren't teaching Pharisaic ways and Sadducee ways. They were teaching a whole new thing that if you believe upon this man, Jesus, that you could be saved, which was contrary to anything that they ever done. It was breaking traditions. In fact, they were saying, you don't even have to do the old traditions because he's already fulfilled the law. And it messed with their mind because now people don't have to come and offer an idol or a sacrifice on the idol, not the idol, the altar, sacrifice an altar. Now they can go straight to God. It challenged everything. So when Paul was talking about this stuff, he meant his life was in danger. Real trouble, real problems, real situation. Every time he spoke, he either got locked up, beat, stoned. In fact, this guy was stoned and drug outside the city gates and left for dead because they thought he's not going to live, he's not going to make it. This guy, every time he speaks, they say, where is him and his friends that keep turning up the world for Jesus Christ? That every time he wrote a letter, they're like, man, he is shaking up. He stirred things up. So every time Paul wrote, people were like, we've got to do something about this guy Paul, or he's going to cause this cult to flourish. 2,000 years down the road, we know it's the truth. It's the gospel, and it's the gospel of Jesus Christ that truly sets us free. But this was real trouble. So even though we're going through trouble, and here we are, we compare each other to trouble. I just want you to understand, it's easy for you to say, my trouble is worse, or I think, Pastor Brian, yeah, you have it bad, but you're a pastor, you don't have it that bad. If you just knew my trouble, you'd understand. So I think we consider that, whether you think your trouble's worse than mine or not, I guarantee it wasn't worse than Paul's. So if Paul can make it through this situation, you can too. He said we're pressed on every side with troubles, but we're not crushed. It can't crush you. It's not going to take you over. We're perplexed. What does that word perplexed mean? Perplexed meaning we don't understand. We can't comprehend. We're just overtaken. Our mind can't perceive what's going on around us. We're perplexed. But we're not driven to despair. I'm pressed and I'm perplexed, but it's not over. I don't have to understand everything that's going around me when I'm going through it, as long as I know that I can trust God. He goes on and says, we're knocked down. Again, another attack against his body. There's people and there's pastors who've gotten death threats. I have never gotten a death threat. I'm not looking for one. I'm just not looking for one. And I'm thankful for that. But Paul got them regularly. When he says he was hunted down, it wasn't for hunted down so they could tell him something great news. They were hunting him down to take his life. They were hunting him down to do him great harm. But he was hunted down. He said, we're hunted down, but we're not abandoned by God. You may feel like everything's against you, but God has not abandoned you, and God has not given up on you. You may feel pressed. You may feel not understanding, perplexed. You may feel hunted down, but God has not abandoned you. And he says, we get knocked down, but we're not destroyed. No matter what happens to you. And for some of us in this room, let's just be real honest and real clear. I was honest last week. I want you to be honest with yourself. Some of us feel like emotionally, some of us feel life has just knocked us down. Just knocked down. And we had this idea, man, if I start serving God, I turn my life around, everything's going to be better, everything's going to be easy, everything's going to be wonderful. It's not going to be hard anymore, but it is hard. Life's hard. And so I thought, man, this time's going to be different. I'm going to make it. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to listen to the Pastor Brian, and I'm going to worship with the worship. I'm going to send my kids to youth. I'm going to send my kids to a kids' church. And then this thing hit. And now my kids are stuck at home every day. I'm stuck at home every day. I'm frustrated. I'm irritated. And I get knocked down. This is not what I thought life was going to be like when I got my heart right with God. Isn't that what we all think? Jesus told us trouble you're going to have and trouble you're going to have with you always. But that's not what we feel like. We feel like we're going to get saved and we become supermen. Big old S on our chest. We rip open our shirt and everything just bounces off of us. Bullets bounce off of us. We got the shield of faith. Man, take us on, devil. I'm ready for you. And we feel like we can take on anything. And when something overtakes us, we're like, this is not what life was supposed to be like. This is not what I was promised. Because we like reading the good scriptures. I am more than a conqueror through Jesus Christ. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I can take on any deadly thing and it will not harm me. I'm not suggesting you do that. We had this idea that when we get saved, we are supermen, and when we fail, we feel like either it's not real or we feel like I haven't measured up and I'm not what I thought I was. I'm just a big fake. If you've been knocked down, if you've been pressed on every side, if you're confused and baffled, perplexed by what's going on around the world, you are not alone. And your faith can be intact. You need to understand that. Because a prosperity situation will tell you that nothing's ever going to be wrong. But the truth is, things go wrong. We live in a real world with real people. It doesn't mean you don't overcome this. Paul had a purpose for all this. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. What Paul says the purpose of all this is. But Paul had to go through this. Paul had a thorn in his flesh that he said, I prayed several times, it wouldn't go through. People debated what that was. Some people thought it was a physical element. Some people thought, this is the truth, thought it was church problems that wouldn't go away, that he kept praying through, and the church problems wouldn't go away. You can read different things and what they thought it was. But regardless, he had this situation. He said, Lord, take it away, and it didn't go away. And so it remained. So why? His faith would grow stronger. See, everything in the scripture really is kind of backwards when you read it, because it's, in my weakness, I'm strong. Am I what? It's reverse theology when you start thinking about it. Everything that I think I'm supposed to be, the opposite makes me stronger. When I decreases, he increases. What? When I get low, I lift him up. I don't understand. What am I supposed to do? So we get through these whole things, but Paul uses these phrases: pressed, perplexed, hunted down, knocked down. And I just want you to understand, if you're there, you are not alone. When stress is high, and when unfair criticisms come your way, and unexpected news hits you, I want you to understand, it's tough. But Paul says this great thing that's absolutely true that I love. He says, but we continue. But we continue. We don't give up. We keep going. In fact, he says this throughout the book of Corinthians. We keep going. We don't quit. We keep moving. We keep growing. We keep going. We don't quit. We keep going. Some of us have got to realize that even though we doesn't feel like we want to get up in the morning, because here's what we do. When we get overtaken, when we get down, we shut down. And everybody shuts down differently. Some of us shut down and go fishing. Some of us shut down and go hunting. Some of us shut down and go play golf. Some of us shut down and go get on a tractor. Some of us shut down and go to our bedroom under the sheets. Some of us shut down and go shopping. But we shut down, we pull away from everybody else. We shut down. And if I didn't get you, I could go through the list a little more. But the truth is, we all have our thing. What's that thing that you do to pull away? When you get taken down, you shut down. What's your thing? because we all have it. But Paul says we don't do that. As believers, we keep going, we keep growing. We keep going, we keep growing. So today I want to give you 3 keys to keep going and growing in spite of pain and pressure. How do you do that? Paul gives us great explanations as we go through this. And it was all about this. It's all about what we focus on. It's all about how we decide to concentrate, what we decide to concentrate on. He says this in verse 10, through suffering, our bodies continue to share in the death of Jesus, so that the life of Jesus may also be seen in our bodies. Yes, we live under constant danger of death because we serve Jesus. And thank you, goodness, we don't live under constant danger of our body here in the United States. So that the life of Jesus will be evident in our dying bodies. So we live in the face of death, but this has resulted in eternal life for you. Verse 13, my verse, here we go, but we continue. This ought to be the theme of what we're dealing with right now in 2020 and what may go into 2021. We don't know, but we continue. We continue. We are a body of believers that God has called us, that even when we're pressed, even when we're pushed down, even when things come against us, we continue. We don't give up. We don't look at the face of danger and the face of problems, and we don't shut down. We continue. And he says we continue to do what? We continue to preach. The church was never meant to be shut down. In fact, let me tell you this. When it comes to the church, even though services may not always be, I know we don't like talking about that, right? Even though the service may not be in person, it is not the church. You are the best resource for the gospel that we've ever seen. You are always the plan. And in church, especially in American church, we like doing outreaches. We like doing, let's go feed the community, and I'm all for that. Let's get in the community. I'll believe in that. Let's go feed the football team. Let's go feed the volleyball team, the cheerleaders. Let's go take care of the baseball, the softball team. Let's drop off Gatorade. Let's go take care of our healthcare workers. Let's do all this stuff. We're all for that. Let's show the love of Jesus so we can tell the love of Jesus. We're all about that. We get that. But that was never God's design. God's design for the gospel being shared was always through individuals. It was always through you. And when people see you going through great trials and great situations, it does something in them on how you respond to those troubles. Something stirs on the inside of them when they see that you are pressed but not crushed. When they see that you are persecuted, when you're perplexed, but you are not abandoned, you haven't given up to despair. When you are hunted down, but not destroyed. When you have gone through all of these things that are written about and you continue on, but you continue and you continue on with faith and you continue on preaching and you don't give up, even though there's testimony after testimony in this room of why you should have given up. There's something that gives you the latitude and the ability to share faith with somebody in a way that no one else would. You are the greatest outreach that this world has ever seen. You're it. But we continue to preach because we have the same kind of faith the psalmist had when he said, I believe God, so I spoke. Man, I'm looking for some people that are just like that. I believe God, so I'm speaking up. I believe God, so I'm telling it. I believe what God says, so I'm going to share it. I believe God. Verse 14 goes on, so we know. Listen, don't ever forget what God has told you. We know that God, who raised the Lord Jesus, will also raise us with Jesus and present us to himself together with you. Verse 15. I struggle with that first sentence. I really do. All of this is for your benefit. Does it feel like it's for your benefit? Doesn't feel like it's for my benefit. Last week I shared with you, it didn't feel like my benefit. It felt like frustrations. And just understand this. I'm not afraid of COVID-19. I believe it's real. I believe it's out there. You don't have to believe it. You can believe whatever you want to believe. I can tell you I believe it's real, but I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of getting it. What I'm afraid of, and this is honest goodness truth, is I'm afraid of disunity in the church and for us to stop reaching people with the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what I'm afraid of. Well, that's a good church answer. I'm just telling you, that's what I really am afraid of. Sandra will tell you that's what I'm really afraid of. When I bellyache and hurt the most and I cry and I weep and I worry, it's because I'm worried that there's going to be fractures in the unity of the church or that we're going to stop telling people about the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what I'm afraid of. Everything else is just an end to the mean. I wear a mask to protect other people. That's fine. If people make people feel more comfortable, I wear a mask. I do believe it's real, but I feel like I'm just kind of in the middle of the road with it. You don't have to feel that way. But you need to understand that I'm not operating out of fear. I'm operating out of a fear of something else. That we would allow ourselves to be fractured from it, and that we would allow ourselves to stop doing the gospel, which we've been called to do, and never to stop. The gospel was never meant to be frozen. The gospel was never meant to be pushed pause on. People gave their life to share the gospel. Literally, physically, painful deaths, they gave their life for the gospel. Let's don't talk about how brave we are and how big we are and strong in our country if we can't share our faith with people. Try not to get on a tangent, so I'm going to be careful how I do this. But when we go through problems and we go through situations of all kinds, we go through all these problems, we have to understand, yes, it's a real thing, and God cares about our pain. God cares about your pain. God doesn't want you in that, but it's what makes you stronger, and it's what shows people that you're real. People will connect to you real. In fact, well, they will. But it's through this. It's through this. But why do we do all this? Why do we go through the problem, and why is it for my benefit? Read the last part of the verse. And as God's grace reaches more and more people, there will be great things given, and God will receive more and more glory. You see, it's for our benefit because as we go through what we're going through, how we respond, God's grace reaches more and more people because as they see God's grace working in your life, it begins to work in their life. It's God's grace, and God will receive more and more glory. So here it is. Here's the first key. If you want to get past it, you want to move past this, you want to have a key to getting through this pain and growing, you got to focus on growing and showing God's grace. Be better at showing and growing in God's grace. God's grace is sufficient for your needs. It's sufficient. It's grace upon grace. He has got grace for you. More grace than you'll ever need. And let me tell you, I need a lot of grace. If you don't need a lot of grace, next week I'll give you the pulpit. But for most of us in this room, we need a lot of grace. So what's happening in your life in this moment is just a small piece of what God is wanting to do to put grace on display for eternity's sake. We started in verse 8, but if you go back to verse 7 of 2 Corinthians chapter 4, it says this: we now have this light shining in our heart, but we ourselves are fragile clays of jar containing a great treasure. You're just fragile. You're fragile. You're fragile. You're just fragile. You can't do it. You can break under pressure. You can break. In fact, we struggle with this because we go out there and we pray, God, you said you never put more on me than I can handle. But God, I can't handle this situation. But what he actually said is he will not put more on you than you can handle without making a way of escape. You see, there's a way out. You have to choose to take the way out. It's not just he won't put more on you. It's without making a way of escape. You have to choose the exit strategy that he gives you. If you're stubborn, you're hard-headed, and you're going to do it your way, it may be more than you can handle because you didn't take the exit when it was given to you. You're fragile. But then he goes on and says this makes it clear that our great power is from God and not from ourselves. You see, you can't do it. It's God in you. It's greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. It's not, look how strong I am. You do not have this armor that is so great that protects you from everything without God. You got saved and you instantly have your suit and you don't need God anymore. No, he made our lives live in such a way that we are always in need of God. In fact, our whole structure is all about dependence on God. Our whole faith is, I can't do anything without me. We used to sing that song, one of the great songs, I can't even walk without you holding my hand. What a great song. Great old chorus. Listen, I'm not going to sing it, don't worry. Where's Morgan? I'm not going to sing it, Morgan. I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Though the mountain's too high and the valley's just too wide, I can't do it by myself. But with God's help, I can do it. You see, it's not me, it's him. It's always him. It's not me. And whenever I begin to think it's me, all of a sudden I begin to fail and fall and press down. Verse 16 of 2 Corinthians chapter 4 goes on this. That's why we never give up. Never give up. We don't give up. We don't get to throw our hands up and say, that's it, I'm out. No, we want to do that. That's our tendency. That's it, I'm out. Listen, I'm out. I'll see y'all later. See y'all next year. Hope 2021's better. I'm out. I'm out. But it's not it. We never give up. Though our bodies are dying, our spirits are being renewed every day. It's that spiritual man. Here's the second way you're going to make it through all the problems, all the pain, all the suffering, is you're going to focus on growing spiritually. God is doing something in you. In fact, people are growing spiritually more and more as we've been going through these trials and situations. People are praying more. People are seeking God more. People are hungry for more of God. In fact, we're seeing our services grow. We're seeing people get saved. In fact, there are people that are attending now that weren't saved a year ago. They've given their heart to God through these great struggles, through these great trials, all because we have been in a spiritual battle. We've been fighting not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities and the things that we cannot see. We've been pressing on. We've been going on. And it's in our non-ability, but in God's ability, that we're growing spiritually through all these trials and situations. Now, I used to lift weights. Don't laugh, Clint. I used to lift weights. In my mind, I looked like a super bodybuilder, but in reality, I didn't. But I used to lift weights. But what's fascinating about lifting weights is, do you know you don't lift weights and immediately get muscle? I know, shocking. Those people quit really quick because they don't see immediate results. The truth is, you don't get stronger and gain muscle while you're working out. How it works, and it's fascinating, is as you're working out, your muscles get little micro tears. And during these little micro tears, they begin to tear. When you're working out, you feel soreness. That's the soreness you feel. That's what you feel the next few days. But after you work out, those micro tears begin to heal back together. And they begin to make muscle. And they begin to strengthen one another. And it's in that building of that muscle and those strengths that you become stronger. I want you to understand this, that in the middle of what you're going through, it may not seem like you're getting stronger, but God's creating a tension enough that's causing little micro tears that as you're healing from it, you're getting stronger. And spiritually, you're getting stronger. And the things you walked through a year ago doesn't seem as bad because now you're walking through valleys that seem so deep, but now they look so shallow because you're spiritually, you've grown so much. You're walking up mountains that when you look back last year, it looked like Mount Everest, and now it looks like a little Texas hill, and you're just barely walking on it. And now you're going through things that don't seem that bad. Why? Because spiritually you're stronger. You're growing spiritually through all of this, mess, through all the situations. You are stronger, better, braver, and you are going to do greater things because of what you've been through than if you'd have never gone through it at all. It's in those things, it's in those moments that you become stronger. I am stronger today because of my weakness than I was without it. Verse 17 through 18, he goes on, he says, for our present troubles are small and won't last very long. It feels like it's going to last for eternity. You remember when this was going to be for 3 weeks? Oh, 3 weeks. That was funny. Oh, just kidding. It's going to be like 90 days. Right, Taylor? Just 90 days. This is going to be 90 days. This thing will be over in 90 days. 100 days, 115, 120. And now we're like, will it ever end? It's a struggle. But it's small compared to what's going to happen for eternity. You see, your troubles won't last very long, even though it feels like it's long. Last week we talked about Caleb waited 45 years. Yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. What you're dealing with now and how you're growing and how you're dealing with people, and I said it last week, be nice to people. People know how to be mean, be nice. How you deal with people right now will last far longer than this pandemic. So we don't look at the troubles as we can see them now, but rather we fix our gaze. We fix our eyes. What are we looking at? We're fixing our eyes not on what TV says, not what Facebook says. We fix our eyes, our gaze, on the things that cannot be seen. God, even when I can't see it, you're working. You got it. Even when I can't feel it, you're working. Even when I don't hear you, you're working. No matter what's going on, God, you are working behind the scenes even when I don't do it. We fix our gaze not on the things we can see, but the things we cannot see. For the things we see now will soon be gone, but the things we cannot see will last forever. What's going to last forever is how you act, how you respond, how you share your faith. All this other stuff will be gone. There are things that Sandra and I struggled with early in our marriage that we have to really rack our brain to remember how bad it was, because looking bad, it doesn't feel that bad. Places we lived, struggles we had, I'm telling you, we've lived in some mouse, rat, possum-infested houses, but the Lord blessed. We grew closer as we were on the chair together. No, we were really hiding on the chair together. Really wasn't that bad. There was really big rats and stuff, but that we weren't really hiding. In fact, Sandra was pregnant with Madison, and we were living in a church parsonage, and she couldn't sleep. And she got to the place where she wasn't even afraid. She just started counting them as they go across the floor at night. This is a true story. We've all had those rough stories, right? Thank goodness we're not there today. Well, some might be, but be encouraged. We were too. You get used to it. The things you used to be afraid of, you're not near as afraid of. I can kill my own snakes now. I don't have to call Scott Bernard. I can kill my own snake. I'm getting braver. I don't like them. But they're just small because they don't last forever. The things that are going to last forever are the things we're doing that are going to last for eternity. So here it is. Don't focus on the immediate. Focus on the eternal. Don't focus on what's going on right now. Focus on the eternal. I love that phrase when Paul says, this is why we never give up. This is why we never give up. Because what we're going through now won't last forever. It's the things that last for eternity. God isn't finished. Listen, you have to realize you don't have the whole story yet, but God does. As I'm closing, let me give you this. Don't look at your problems. Look past them. There's something greater on the other side. Don't look at your problems. Look beyond them. God has something greater in store for you if you don't give up. The question is, do you want what God wants for you, or do you just want to be comfortable? Do you want comfort now, or do you want strength that will last for all time? I'm learning more and more, I'm choosing strength for all time. I want the strength that lasts beyond the moment. And let me assure you, I've read your text, seen your email, I've gotten your phone calls, I've seen your hurt. Some of you are walking miracles because of what you've been through. You are a blessing with a testimony and a story to be told that people don't even know about yet. But as you tell your story, I'm telling you, it's going to minister. It's going to encourage. And people who didn't feel like they can make it are all of a sudden going to realize, I can make it too. I can make it too. I'm not the only one. It's not as bad as I thought. It's not going to last forever. I can make it too. God's got something in store for you. Don't give up. If everyone in this place would just stand for just a moment. I know when we're in a church, it's hard to kind of open up and share your heart and share your faith. And I realize that. I'm not asking you to blubber and come all that this morning. What I'm asking you to do is be real with yourself. Some of you are going through some very difficult times, and you've been trying to survive on your own strength. Some of you, this is your favorite thing to say to your spouse. Just give me a little more time, I'm going to get it under control. It won't always be hard like this. Money won't always be as tight. If you just hold out, a little longer, it's going to get better. Just trust me, it's going to get better. And it's not getting any better. You're deeper in debt than you ever thought you would be. Your credit cards are maxed out. And you've been not just lying to them, you've been lying to yourself. And all because we've been trying to do it on our own. Some of you emotionally are about ready to fall apart, and everybody says, everything okay? You're just not yourself. And you're like, oh, I'm fine. Isn't that our favorite word? I'm fine. Don't worry about me. You got enough to worry about. I'm fine. But you're not fine. You have meltdowns. You have breakdowns. When everybody's out of the house, you have meltdowns. You go into the bathroom, and you close the door, and you cry by yourself because it's not fine. Everything's not okay. Everything's not fine. Some of you are just at the idea of being, and I'm not making light of this, so I know it's going to sound funny, but I'm not making light of this. Some of you have spent all summer with your kids, and you don't feel like it's safe for them to go back to school, but the thought of you having to stay home and school them is terrifying, and you just think, I just can't do it. I feel like a bad parent because if I send them, I feel like I'm putting them in danger, and if I homeschool them at home, I feel like I'm going to kill them. It's real. I lose my temper, and I don't want to lose my temper over little things. But I'm mad about everything. Some of you don't know what the stability of your job looks like, and so the more you are dealing and hearing rumors, you don't know how to tell your spouse that you may not have a job at the end of this year. I'm talking about people who have real problems in this place. Real problems, real situations. And some of it's just real to you. Everybody else looks at it, it looks so small. Oh, there's not going to be a football season or a soccer season or this stuff, and you're like, that seems so small. Not to that student. Not to that kid. Who this is their final year, their senior year, or this is their one chance to finally be a starter, and they feel like they're not going to do that. Life seems devastating. They've worked hard. If you've ever done travel ball team, you know how hard it is. And now they don't even get the chance to try. I'm telling you, there's life beyond this moment. But you have to realize this. You can't do it by yourself. You need God's help. You were never meant to handle it anyway.